Was the Emperor of Qin an effective leader? Introduction. In the later years of the Zhou dynasty, China entered a period of unrest that lasted until the Qin dynasty seized power. During this dynasty, China became unified under Qin Shi Huangdi. The Emperor of Qin ruled over a united China from 221 to 210 BCE. His reign was one of great contrasts. He executed hundreds of enemies, and his building projects killed thousands of his own people. However, he also unified Chinese government and culture. The emperor's construction projects were among the most spectacular in the world, the largest of which was the Great Wall along China's northern border. The wall was intended to protect China from invasion from the north. Much like a general would prepare for a war, the Emperor of Qin made plans to build his wall. Supply camps were set up to bring food and materials to the workers in the mountains and deserts of the northern frontier. Soldiers were posted to fight off bandits and to prevent workers from running away. Thousands of Chinese were marched from their homes and forced to work on the wall. It is said that many of them never returned. Clearly, the Emperor of Qin was both a strong leader and a cruel one. It is little wonder that later historians would have very differing opinions of this ruler and his impact on China. In this lesson, you will read about the Emperor of Qin and develop your own opinion. Creating an empire. China's first emperor began life as Prince Zheng of the royal family of the state of Qin. He was born in 259 BCE near the end of the Warring States period. In 256 BCE, Qin rulers took over the state of Zhou, ending the Zhou dynasty. 10 years later, 13-year-old Prince Zheng became king. Occasionally called the Tiger of Qin, Zheng was quite an ambitious man. He used military might, spies, bribery, and alliances to conquer the remaining rival states. His kingdom ultimately became far larger than those of earlier dynasties. In 221 BCE, he gained control of all of China and decided to take a new title, Qin Shi Huangdi, or First Emperor of Qin. As a ruler, the Emperor of Qin was greatly influenced by legalism. Legalists believe in strict laws, harsh punishments, and a strong central authority. The emperor adopted these ideas. To avoid threats from powerful lords, he replaced the old system of feudalism with a government he controlled personally. He divided his vast territory into 36 districts. 3 officials were appointed to govern each district. One official was responsible for the army. Another held authority over the laws and agriculture. The duty of the third official was to keep the emperor informed of district activities. The Emperor of Qin used harsh measures to maintain his power. When he discovered plots against his life, he ordered the traitors and their families to be executed. He even exiled his own mother from court, fearful that she was plotting against him. Standardizing the culture. The Emperor of Qin aimed to unify China. He began to standardize cultural practices that differed from location to location. One key step was to develop a uniform system of laws, a number of which were aimed at government officials. Officials were punished if the grain in storehouses spoiled or if a wall constructed under their supervision collapsed. Other laws governed everyday life. For example, widows were forbidden to remarry. Based on legalist beliefs, the emperor's laws were detailed and spelled out exact punishments for people who broke them. Rich and poor were punished in the same way. Typical punishments included fines that were paid in shields, gold, or suits of armor. However, there were also physical punishments that included forced labor, whippings, and beheadings. To make trading easier, the emperor standardized money, weights, and measures. Throughout China, people had used various types of items as money, such as shells, pearls, silver, tin objects, and coins. The Emperor of Qin commanded that metal coins of gold or bronze would be the only acceptable form of currency. A hole in the center of each coin enabled people to carry several coins together on a cord. The emperor also ordered that measuring cups be designed to hold consistent amounts. To regulate weights, he had metal workers create bell-shaped bronze or iron weights in a variety of standard sizes. Xin Huangdi also simplified the writing system. He removed many of the written characters that were in use across China. A later dictionary listed 9,000 approved characters. Protecting the northern border. To protect his empire from invaders, the Emperor of Qin forced workers to build an enormous wall along China's northern border. Earlier kingdoms had previously constructed smaller walls of their own. The emperor ordered long sections built to connect these walls and extend the wall to the west. The complete structure was called the 10,000 li long wall. 1 li is about 3/10 of a mile. It later became known as the Great Wall. Few traces of the original Great Wall survive. The Great Wall, as it is known today, was built by later rulers. Most likely, the original wall was made up of layers of earth pounded into wooden frames that held all the components together. The Emperor of Qin's wall took 10 years to complete. A workforce of 300,000 men was assembled to construct it. Some were soldiers, while many were peasants who were forced to renounce farming to work on the project. Still others were musicians, teachers, writers, and artists that the emperor had previously exiled to the north. The men who built the wall worked under difficult conditions since the wall crossed high mountains, deserts, swampland, and quicksand. The weather was bitterly cold in the winter and blazingly hot in the summer. According to later accounts, tens of thousands of men died while working on the project, and their bodies were buried in the wall. Combined with strong Chinese armies, the Great Wall proved extremely effective at stopping invasions. Nomads living to the north of the wall were unable to move sheep or cattle over it, and horses could not jump it. Therefore, any invaders who managed to scale the wall would be left without supplies or horses. Ending opposition. The changes that the Emperor of Qin introduced to unify and protect China drew a great deal of opposition. They were especially unpopular with Confucian scholars who believed in behaving properly and setting a good example rather than enforcing harsh laws. The emperor was determined to end any opposition to his rule. It is said that he executed 460 Confucian scholars for plotting against him. The conflict between the emperor and the scholars worsened during a royal banquet in 213 BCE. During the meal, one Confucian scholar criticized the emperor, warning that the Qin dynasty would not endure unless the emperor followed the ways of the past. The scholar's comments angered the emperor's trusted advisor, Li Sui, who informed the emperor of that scholar's criticism, or that scholar's criticisms were causing trouble, and the government should censor the scholars. No one, he declared, should be allowed to learn about Confucianism. All Confucian literature must be brought to the capital city and burned. Only books discussing medicine, farming, and the history of the Qin kingdom should escape censorship. The Emperor of Qin agreed to order the book burning. He said that scholars who disobeyed the order would be marked with a tattoo on their faces and sent to do forced labor. In addition, anyone who discussed ancient teachings will be guilty of criticizing the government and will be executed. The emperor's brutal actions shocked the people of China. Some scholars chose to die rather than surrender their books. Even the emperor's son became a victim of his father's campaign to end opposition. When the son objected to the killing of scholars, he was sent to oversee work on the Great Wall. The emperor's death and the end of the Qin dynasty. Despite the emperor of Qin's many achievements, some ancient Chinese writings say that he could not find happiness. Above all, the emperor was afraid to die, so he summoned magicians to his court and asked how he could become immortal or live forever. Some magicians informed him that he should seek a magic potion. The emperor searched far and wide for such a potion. He once sent an expedition all the way to islands in the sea that is east of China. The death and burial of the Emperor of Qin. In 210 BCE, the Emperor of Qin died after ruling for just over 10 years. He had been off searching for the magic potion 600 miles from the capital city. No one knows the exact cause of his death, but some suggest he was poisoned. The Emperor of Qin's body was transported back to the capital and buried in a huge tomb in a human-made mound. The tomb complex, or group of structures, covered many square miles. Ancient Chinese writings state that more than 700,000 workers helped construct it. Some of them were buried with the emperor to prevent grave robbers from learning about the tomb's fabulous treasures. The treasures in the Emperor of Qin's tomb were not uncovered until 1974 CE. Among them were tools, precious jewels, and rare objects. However, the most amazing discovery of all was an entire army made of a kind of clay called terracotta. The army included more than 6,000 life size figures such as archers, foot soldiers, chariot drivers, and horses. So far, archaeologists have yet to find any two figures that are exactly alike. The end of the Qin dynasty. Shi Huangdi died in 210 BCE. The harshness of the emperor's rule had caused much unhappiness across China. After his death, rebellions broke out in the countryside. Members of royal families from conquered states joined in the revolt. As various leaders competed for power, civil war raged. Finally, in 206 BCE, Liu Biang, a peasant leader, gained power and established the Han dynasty. Lesson summary. In this lesson, you learned about Qin Shi Huangdi, China's first emperor. Creating an empire. Qin Shi Huangdi was influenced by legalism. He replaced feudalism with a strong central government under his control. He divided his territory into 36 districts, each governed by three officials. He used harsh measures to enforce his power. Standardizing the culture. The Emperor of Qin unified China and also greatly expanded its borders. He standardized Chinese laws, money, weights, measures, and writing. Protecting the northern border. Among the emperor's many construction projects was the Great Wall, which he built to protect China's northern border from invaders. Ending opposition. Many of Emperor Qin's actions aroused opposition. He brutally censored and executed his critics, including Confucian scholars. The emperor's death and the end of the Qin dynasty. Although the emperor searched for a way to become immortal, he died in 210 BCE. He was buried in a huge tomb, along with many treasures and an army of 6,000 life size terracotta figures. His amazing tomb was discovered in 1974. Revolt broke out after his death, and civil war raged until the Han dynasty was established.